background check, the dreaded background, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so for those of you that don't know, the background checks for firefighters are similar to law enforcement agencies. In fact, police agencies are the ones that conduct most firefighter background checks. And there's lots of different components of it. But when they say that they're going to be in depth, they are certainly in depth. So I'm going to let Jeff talk about that.
So one of the things that has been really successful is that we turn the background process over to our law enforcement agencies, for those agencies, cities and counties that have those. And the first part is a pretty comprehensive document that you have to complete, up to 32 pages, and it talks about where you've been, where you've lived, who your neighbors are, educational components, all of the things that go along with that. I would share a couple things with you that I've found to be startling during my time in the background check process. Number one is that people procrastinate in getting that done. So if we're looking at hiring 10 candidates and we send out these packages and you take your time, we're going to get to a point where if you haven't completed it, you've failed the background check. So that's one thing immediately. Second of all, generally there's someone in the organization that will be briefed by the police department or law enforcement agency about the background check. And it's confidential information, but I'm here to tell you that they dig significantly. I mean, they'll go talk to your neighbors, they'll talk to your friends, they'll talk to your parents if they're still alive, they'll talk to siblings. The bottom line is they'll search social media, and I can't tell you how many candidates have done dumb stuff on social media that have cost them their lottery winnings by entering the fire service. So be aware of that we will look at those types of things. It's a complete process. Be polite when they come visit. Let your references know that you're going to be doing reference checks. It's pretty startling when you get a call to do a reference check and no one's checked in with you ahead of time. Most people that put down references think that they'll get a good reference from those people, and they have them forewarned ahead of time. So those are all components that go along with that. It's a pretty in-depth process. Generally speaking, when I've been receiving background checks, I'll get a binder that is probably 3 inches thick. And it's all the interview notes from the background investigator. And I will tell you that we go through those with a fine-tooth comb. We also have a discussion with the background investigator. And generally, there's several things that we'll hear. It's like, great candidate. I have no apprehensions whatsoever. This is a iffy candidate. There are some areas that need to be explored further. I think you, as the hiring person, ought to dig into that a little further. Or some of them is absolutely no way. And they'll look at your educational background and see if that's all truthful. When people lie, it comes out in these areas. It really, really does. And it's amazing to me how people will forget about drunk driving arrests. They'll forget about some of the things that they've done earlier. Even if you have something that's expunged from your file, sometimes that stuff comes to the surface anyways. So again, it's the best policy to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. It sounds kind of corny, but that's how it really works. Again, in a competitive nature, when you have lots of people that are interested in working for your organization, there's no need to deal with somebody that's iffy. Oftentimes, it's just better to move on, retest, or go to the next candidate in line. So I would share with you that background checks are serious. Take them serious. Be prompt about that. Be polite when the background investigators are talking to you. Be respectful, because everything that they do is an impression that they're going to write down on paper and share it with the hiring authority. Back to you, Ed.
Great. So be open and transparent, bottom line. Make sure that going back to what we were talking about before with your application, make sure that everything is consistent. Make sure that you know that your answers throughout the process, that you know your resume, you know your dates, you know your timelines, all those things, right? You're responsible for all that. So be aware of that. And to Jeff's point about social media, just don't do it. We have what's called the headline test, right? Which is essentially if you can imagine seeing something that you do on the, as the headline of tomorrow's newspaper, then that should be part of your decision making and whether or not you do something that's going to be stupid and keep you from a very rewarding 30-year career. So think twice before you do anything, and definitely keep your opinions off of social media, and just keep things very generic. Nothing wrong with being yourself, but just think about some of those things before you act on them. And again, just remain consistent. And the thing is we also understand that people make mistakes, but you need to show that you've learned from them, right? A major red flag is going to be you just got a DUI right before this process, obviously, right? So there kind of like in hazmat, time, distance, and shielding. You want to make sure that there's been some time that you did some made some poor decisions and you moved on and now you've learned from those things.